how are you doing today? I am doing well. Not much work. That has been it.
What is your work?
I help my wife at the pharmacy. So she is the head pharmacist
Which pharmacy?
in Osborne Drug. It used to be physicians and surgeons, and 5 years ago, Gary Clinton, who used to be the mayor, Gary sold to Bill Osborne from Miami, and we have recently been to the partners with him. So I guess we're kind of owners too. So more Shauna than me, I'm just there. I do what she tells me to. Yeah, I do our deliveries for the deliveries, and I do tech work for her.
Where's Osborne?
So currently we are at 900 Crossroads.
By the nursing?
Yeah, right next to it.
Okay.
And we're in the same building. Weirdly, it's divided. There's a hallway that connects them, but
That's
there's
a
no
strange
longer.
setup.
It is. Back in the day when it was mainly doctor's offices, I think it made more sense, but they've had so many move out since the hospital went to the west side, and we're actually doing the same.
It's so
Yes, we actually have so many that come into our building that they're looking for the GLO lab.
And they're gone.
They've been gone for a while now, and of course they're still on every flyer that's handed out. And so we have people at least once a day ask for the lab. Yeah,
down there.
yeah, it's down by Tecumseh.
I got it. Didn't even see
Quest Diagnostics.
West
Yeah,
Side.
yeah.
I'm looking for the building and right address. And that's right place.
So hard to find. We redirect quite a few, but luckily whenever we do, we don't have to do that anymore. So we're hoping to get moving this year. I don't know.
That homeless traffic is bad.
You know, when we have had some experience where we have patients waiting in the drive-thru, and you know when you put your car in park, a lot of them unlock automatically, and we've had some harassed by Where are you going?
Really not going fishing. That's what I brought you last week. But we got a Texas fish. And then there are lots of
Shauna's grandparents used to have a little store down there. Yeah. See you, Tom. She is working. Our other pharmacist is on vacation. So she can't be. They got her chained up to the desk. Yeah, it is. That's why we can call this. Help with that in class. Get back on track.
Did you guys watch that game last night? I saw, the last I saw was 28. Yeah, it was
Balance it out. That would be like opioids and the lungs probably. I'll bet.
Yeah.
I did that.
Today is October 16th, 2025, and I'm glad to see a room full of friendly faces. We are recording for our YouTube channel, just a reminder of that, which you can watch at Norman Rotary Club, if you would like to check that out. We're going to take a moment of silence to reflect or pray. Our flag salute is with Joan Harrison. Four-way test is Corey Dockett. If you'll join in.
Please join me in a pledge, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the
interested to me, so I thought maybe it's time to introduce you.
Tom, is it a promotion or demotion?
It's a promotion for everyone.
Bob, wait, I saw you. There you are. Do you have guests that you would like to introduce? Okay, we'll wait for that. Andy Rieger has guests, and I think Andy's guests might entertain us for a bit.
Just anything I get applause. So, I want to introduce Gary and Robert Clinton. They're actually guests of Bob and mine today that came to hear Bob talk about Route 66, right? No, they're not here to run, so thank you for coming. One of the guests is an old friend of the club, former member, Rich Zielinski, who wants to talk a little bit about his Veterans Day concert, and he wonders why this club doesn't sing anymore. So that may change in a few days.
They need to hire a piano player.
Thanks, Andy. It's good to be here again. 14 years ago, I came to Norman and we started, many in this room helped me start the Norman Philharmonic. And so we're now starting our 15th season. I brought some flyers here. We're going to do a Veterans Day concert on the 9th. And it's kind of an old school concert. I know some of you are too young to remember Mitch Miller or some of these sing-alongs that we used to do. And Andy asked me, why are you doing a Veterans Day? What was behind that? And I said, well, I think that I should honor the people that, have served our country and are serving our country. But also, there was a time, my dad was a senior in high school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1941. So my dad was a Marine that served over in the Pacific. And so went through many thoughts about the concert. So we had a lot of music in this concert that I want the audience to sing with the orchestra. It's kind of, don't do enough singing anymore. I think, there's just something that has been speaking to me of late that I remember back in the 60s when my sisters were, boyfriends were going off to Vietnam, and there was a song that I like to sing, right? Like to, we don't sing like that anymore as a community, as much as we should. So you can come to the concert and then you'll enjoy it. It's going to be, not that I'm going to make you come and sing a solo or anything like that, but just come and enjoy it. Because there's a lot of songs that still tell us about our history of this great country that we have and that we live in. And so it'll be exciting. One of the pieces is also Aaron Copland's Lincoln portrait. So if you want to hear some words from Lincoln, and our current mayor will be the narrator for that. But appreciate you letting me come to Rotary, and I was a member here, I don't know, for 6 or 7 years, and then my class got changed to this time, and then COVID happened, and then other things happened, but join Rotary. And I'm retired now from McFarland and for more years. Well, I think we should sing a song. We should sing like God Bless America. Okay? God bless America. Land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her from the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, wide with gold. God bless America, my home.
let's just go ahead and let Jamie make the announcement. Okay.
The Tour de Vins check presentation will be October 20th at Bridges at 5:30 p.m. We would love if you all could attend. It'll be a fairly quick program, but great opportunity to see Bridges and great opportunity to find out what the final totals were. So very exciting.
All right. You have seen on the screen that we have our service project in conjunction with the City of Norman, Saturday morning at Sutton Wilderness. We are going to be helping them clean up and tidy up Sutton Wilderness, so please join us. We're going to meet at the gazebo a little bit before 9. Please wear your new t-shirt if you have it. If you have not picked up your t-shirt, they are in a box out there where you signed in, and I will also have them Saturday morning. Reminder about that. Please check your t-shirt order. I did fill them with not a lot of sleep last night, so if it's wrong, please let me know. We do have Team 2, I think, is up for pancakes. Maybe, yeah, Team 2 is up for pancakes at Norman High School, October 22nd, and this is coming Wednesday. You should have heard from Steve Warren. If you are on the schedule and can't make it, please check in with Steve as soon as you can. Okay. Last thing I'm going to ask you to do, and I never ask you to do this, but on your table is a QR code. I would really appreciate it if you would take a second and vote for Wildcare Oklahoma. It does not cost you anything. You have to put in your email, but they won't, I promise, they won't do anything with that. They are up with 4 other organizations in North America, so all across the United States and Canada, to win a Disney grant as well as a Land Rover Defender. It's a big deal that they're in the running and all votes count. You can actually, if you would like, continue to vote until October 19th, but if you would take a minute and vote now, it would really be appreciated. So, and I promise I won't ask you to do that again. Okay, a couple of exciting things. I know that Bill usually does this, but we have a lot of these to get through in the next couple of weeks, and so I'm going to go ahead and call Corey Doggett and Jamie Swain up here. It's a good thing, I promise. No, you guys are great. So we talk a lot about Paul Harris Fellows and how you can become a Paul Harris donor and get your first year Paul Harris pin. There are multiple ways to do that. You can do that yourself, and you can also be recognized anonymously by another member of the club. And so we have 2 of the recipients from an anonymous donor that are going to receive their Paul Harris Fellows today. So Jamie Swain and Corey Doggett, we appreciate you, that you're a member of our club and all you do for us. And so I want to congratulate you. This is Corey's, yeah? And this is yours, Jamie. I know. So congratulations. I'm glad that you're here. Yeah, I'm not, yeah, you are. Okay, but we're not done with presentations. So, Dennis Brigham, would you please come up here? I have been holding on to this certificate since, I don't know, July or early August, waiting for the right opportunity. And next week will be our annual polio presentation, and Barbara McKendry's been working really hard on that. We'll be talking about polio and our Polio Plus Society and how you can be a member. But Dennis has already done that. So thank you to Dennis Brigham for becoming a member of our Polio Plus Society. There you go. And there's your pin. Okay, and that's all for me now. So Lynn Weber, would you like to come and introduce our speaker today?
No, I'll just ask you.
So it's my pleasure to introduce to you today Dr. Robert Daufenbach, who's recently served as Senior Administrative Dean for Economic Development, Professor of Business Administration, and Director for the Center for Economic and Management Research at the Michael F. Price College of Business, University of Oklahoma. He earned his bachelor and master's degrees in economics at Wichita State University in 1969. He received his PhD in economics from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana in 1973. He served on the faculties of Wichita State University, University of Illinois, Oklahoma State University prior to coming to OU. He served as Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Programs from 2002 to 2013. He served as, in 2014, he was named the Caslin Foundation Professor of American Free Enterprise and Senior Associate Dean to the Economic Development through 2022. He was inducted into the Oklahoma Higher Education Hall of Fame in 2015. Upon retirement in July of 2022, he was named Professor Emeritus and joined the Norman Rotary Club. So please help me welcome Dr. Bob Dauffenbach.
Thank you, Lynn. Very much appreciated. I always look for opportunities to speak in the public, to be seen, and Rotary every week provides that kind of opportunity for me because, frankly, things aren't going that well at home, and anything untoward happens to me, I rest assured I want her prosecuted. So she finally, as a present, a retirement present, she let me have a Ninja large canister mixer and come to all these parts and whatnot. This exceptionally large canister with this tower of blades in it, and we're unpacking it, and she says, well, now I will be able to dispose of your body. So, I'd like to have a discussion today about the U.S. budget deficit, trends over time, whatnot, see if our advance is working here. And so, examination of the U.S. federal debt, I have an alternative title. The U.S. economy is headed for a severe reckoning, and this time I really mean it. In case you've been to some of my previous presentations. We've got a lot of questions that we seek to answer here, and I want to leave plenty of time for questions at the end, so I'll kind of hustle through. You have on your table a compendium of the graphics in sort of miniature. Here I have 5 copies that I put on the tables, and if you can share, if there are more than 5 people, if you can share among yourselves. But the questions we seek to answer, and search for an answer anyway, what have been the trends in the debt and in private public holdings? There's a big distinction between public and private holdings, as we will see. How does the debt level compare relative to GDP historically? Who owns the debt? What have been the trends in detailed ownership? And what are the implications of these trends? What are the trends in federal deficits? And here we want to look historically and also in relation to GDP, and plus the growing annual cost of servicing the federal debt. And then what are the major categories of spending that we have in the federal budget? What challenges do those categories of spending hold for this? So this is an ambitious undertaking. My principal theme, and I mean this seriously. Nobody can see the future, but I see a lot of troubling aspects of where the financials are shaping up. But it may just be, because we all know we have economists that have a very dire outlook on what the future holds. So, but I have this principal theme that I hope will come through, is a coming clash between the rising fiscal issues that we face and entitlement programs. So it's an irresistible force. We all love deficit spending, don't we? Because it's always good to get stuff that you don't pay for and foist it on future generations. We baby boomers have been exceptional in taking care of ourselves in that regard, I might add. But this irresistible force of deficit spending, meeting this immobile object of the popularity of entitlements. I mean, what politician is going to come out and say, okay, well, I'm going to run by a program of increasing your taxes and doing away with the budget deficit and sending our deteriorating finances in reserve. So let's get started, and you can observe a lot by watching, says Yogi Berra. So here we're on our quest. This slide shows, just in dollar terms, the total and ownership of the federal debt quarterly for about, 11 years there. And we see that the overall level of debt has expanded by 2 times. And so it's doubled the overall level from about, let's call it 18 trillion to 36, 37 trillion, where we are today. We have total privately held debt going from 10 trillion to 25 trillion. So you can say this is a 150% increase, but I prefer to say that we're at 2.5 times the 2014 level. And we see that we have government accounts, and this is where Social Security funds are, and Federal Reserve holdings. We see back there in the COVID era where the Fed greatly increased its holdings of government reserves and has been backing off a little recently. Open market operations is a really neat thing, because the Fed just goes out and buys government bonds and pays for them by issuing bank reserves. So it just credits the bank reserves. So no real assets really trade place. They're just the exchange of bonds for government debt. So here we're looking at the divisions of debt: privately held federal debt by ownership entity. We're looking at what we see in this graphic is that we've got foreign holdings and what we call other. Doesn't show up too well here with the light shining through, but yeah, you might close that. We might have a little more contrast there in our pictures, but we're seeing in total quite an increase. That's our looking at the privately held portions, and we've got foreign and international at the top, and we see that that's been pretty much the same, rising a little bit lately. But this category of other investors includes individuals, government-sponsored enterprises, brokers and dealers, bank and personal trusts in the states, and so let's just call it the wealthy. And that has grown very much so. And then other big categories, mutual funds and state and local government held, and pension plans, insurance companies, and so on. But the 2 largest categories, when we look in a relative sense, account for 60% of the holdings. And we're looking at relative ownership of foreign and international. It's down from 58% to 25%. So we're showing less inclination to hold U.S. government debt in relation to the total. And the game on the international front with China was, since China was admitted to the WTO, World Trade Organization, in the year 2000, were able to play these increasing international games and become manufactured to the world, has been very, very much an era where the deal was, okay, you give us stuff, China, and we'll give you dollars, but with those dollars, you buy U.S. bonds. And that's been what's going on, and China didn't want their currency to rise in value and want to keep prices cheap. I remember 2002, somewhere way back there, I was in some inexpensive tool supply place, and I picked up a set of screwdrivers, an 18-piece set of screwdrivers, and I meant to bring it today, and it was $2.73 for this 18-piece set of screwdrivers. And I said to myself, I said, well, what's going on here? I mean, it wasn't even $2.97, it was $2.73. So somebody made these over in China. You know, they packaged them up all neat, they put them in a boat, got them from LA to Oklahoma, and how much profit margin was there? Probably 100% for the local store. And I said, things are very different now. And things continue to be very different. Manufacturing employment went into the tank in the U.S. and people got angry, and here we are today. So there's a lot of that has been going on, and furthermore, Sears Roebuck isn't around for me to buy tools from anymore as a consequence. So relative holdings, that's the story there. Now, one of the things we can say about the federal debt, let's look at the debt to GDP ratio. This is a relative look because obviously the federal debt can go up, but if our GDP is rising as well, then we can better afford the rising debt. Well, what we see in this diagram going back to 1939, so we have World War II in it, we see today that our federal debt to GDP ratio exceeds what it did in World War II. And that to me is pretty astounding. We see what happens to the graphic, of course, once we get year 2000 and the increased international trade and China manufactured to the world. And so that we see also in foreign holdings. Back when I was in graduate school, it's hard to recall that calculation. That was 53 years ago. You know, and even then, my dad was always embarrassed when I was getting my PhD, and people would ask him what I was doing, and he'd say, well, he's still in college. Didn't quite understand the graduate school. But anyway, you can see back then we had the argument, well, listen, the federal debt, yeah, that's a big thing, and furthermore, we owe it to ourselves. Future generations, of course, inherit the obligation, but they also inherit the asset. So isn't that great? Well, okay, but to the extent that foreigners hold the asset, that means transfer of real stuff to them, real claims on your country's assets and output. So back then, we were looking at, in the early 70s, we were looking at, I call 5% of foreign holdings of U.S. government debt. And we see where that's gone since then, at 35% meandering around there, 30% a day. So today, so that's a big deal. Here in this slide, we're looking at GDP as the federal deficit as percent of GDP. That's in blue, and on the left scale, and we're looking at the size of the deficit on the right scale in billions. So we're negative about 1.7 trillion in 2008. 2024. These levels are high, and they're scheduled to go to be high and maybe go higher in the interim. Now, what's the cost? What's the cost of servicing the debt? Well, for years, and these data go back to 2000, we were looking at about $400 billion per year. You know, not a small amount of money, but $400 billion per year, and then we see it pick up, and we're all the way up to close to 1.2 trillion, and this is not expected to get any better as we go forward. This graphic here, you will need to take a look at when it's can't read it very well, but what we're looking at is the major categories of spending in the federal budget. So we got Medicare, Social Security, National Defense, and net interest. Top four categories. 57% of total spending. 57% of total spending. That was in 2024. Probably higher today. And so this is the immovable force that we're immovable object we're coming against. We all love deficit spending by our behavior, and so I'm just not certain where all this comes together. Now, the Congressional Business Office, when they do forecasts looking into the future, they don't factor in any recession. But if we have a recession, that could take us quite a ways towards having even more drastic levels. So, my goodness, recent reports out of the Social Security Administration state that OASI, Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Funds, will run out of money in 2033. At which time, they'll only be able to pay 89% of benefits. Well, that still doesn't sound too bad to me. So even I only get 89% of the previous level, that's still a pretty big hunk of change. But my point is, Medicare Part A completes in 2036. So we're not talking about just tomorrow, but it is in the future. And I can't believe it's been 3 years since I retired, and my wife's still complaining about all these unempty boxes at home from the stuff I carted home from the office, still lying around. And 3 years has passed, and those of us that are getting older know how fast time flies. And I think that's what's going to take us to an era of very growing concerns about where we are in spending. The 10-year Treasury, watch the 10-year. Watch the 10-year. It can the Fed controls short-term rates, but they don't control the 10-year. And if there's sticky inflation, and if inflation's getting stickier and it starts going inching a little higher, you can bet the 10-year will go higher as well, and thus the cost of our debt. You can see here there's some degree of correlation between the 10-year and consumer inflation. So there's a lot of talk of inflation being sticky right now and taking us to a situation where we're looking at higher 10-year rates and higher costs of the debt and the consequence. And I have a couple of slides because I just kind of interested in the subject, didn't have anything to do that day, so I looked at what I could find on the distribution of income. And I found some studies done by the BLS where they look at income households in terms of deciles. So that's what the 1 to 10 refers to there. In deciles, we're talking about talking about after-tax income in 2023, nearly 290,000. For that was the mean value for the top decile, 159,000 for the next decile, and we're looking at a total. The top 10% of the income district of households, top 10% represent 31% of total household income. And the next decile, about 160,000. So that decile mean value, 160,000, that makes 10%. So the two together account for about 48. So the top two deciles account for 48% of all household income. It's not surprising that recent reports I've read find that the top 10% of households represent 50% of consumption spending in the country. And you know, this is kind of a no extra cost exercise, but there's a lot of anger out there, and possibly our distribution of income is part of that. Then I looked at inflation-adjusted gains from 2014 to 2023. And the top group gained 45,155. The bottom group gained about $1,700. So incomes are up, real incomes are rising, based on the consumer price index I did these adjustments on. So that's a good sign. And finally, where are we here? In summary, federal debt is more than doubled in 10 years in relation to the debt. GDP is now higher than the previous peak of World War II. Foreigners and international and other investors dominate as holders of the federal debt, and 60% of total federal debt. Own 6% of the total federal debt. Federal debt now stands at 6% of GDP and is destined to go higher, but at least at these levels into 2040 by the Office of Management Budget. Debt service levels now stand at $1.1 trillion and continue to rise, exceeding the military budget in this country. What we pay just to service the debt exceeds the military budget. Mandatory spending dominates spending at about a two-thirds ratio. Mandatory spending, in other words, not what we're presently fighting over in the 15th day of the government shutdown, which is largely a fight over Obamacare, but mandatory spending is just, that's just legislating. You're supposed to have to pay that anyway. So we owe the debt to ourselves. Well, that's hardly true in total, but it should be modified predominantly to we owe it to foreigners and the wealthy. U.S. distribution of income is highly skewed, 10%. Households accounting for 31% of total after-tax, perhaps at some source of widespread disconnect. Now, I also did some comparison with what's called Lorenz curves. I don't have enough time to go into it now, but it indicated the distribution of income really hasn't changed that much since 2014, the earlier date of these studies. So, what keeps me up at night? Tariffs and trade wars. We're going through a big one with China right now. 92% of the world's metals that they control, and that is of course something that is very much 92% of rare earth minerals. And China knows that they've got quite a rope on the world with this, and I don't know where all this is headed, but it's not pretty. Potential stagflation, rising interest rates, and falling employment, rising inflation, falling employment makes things very difficult for the Fed. Political divides, dysfunctional government. You got to say more on that. We all see it in the news every day. Weakening consumer. You look at some of the debt loads that households are facing. I'm surprised that in last year, there were 1.7 million vehicles repossessed. 1.7 million vehicles repossessed. And that's the last thing households want to turn loose of because they want to get to work. Right? So, pretty incredible. Immigration, that I see more social unrest arising from that. We seem to forget that we are a nation of immigrants. And you've got to protect your borders. You don't have a country if you don't protect your borders. And so, but I have a feeling with a big, beautiful bill that went through Congress, we're talking about $10,000 for providers hiring 10,000 new ICE agents. Well, I ask you where that might be heading. So a lot of jobs are undocumented workers occupy, and then the whole AI thing, the promise of it, stocks are doing well now, they're getting kind of into la-la land, in my opinion, on some of this. Black unemployment has been rising, accelerating in its rise to 7.5% versus 3.7% for whites. Youth unemployment, kids getting jobs out of school, you see headlines on that. And of course, these days you always have to worry about owning football. So with that, we've got some time for questions, I assume? Yes.
What is the K-shaped stock market?
Sorry?
Yes, K-shaped stock market. What is that?
Well, that's when one segment of the market does very well.
Okay.
And like AI is doing well now, and then we have this other things, healthcare, REITs, whatnot, consumer goods stuff. Yes.
If we have double the debt, we have double the inflation, it seems like the buying power is the same.
Well, I'll have to think about that. No, let's talk more about the math of that. The fact of the matter is, how do we get the debt to GDP ratio down so fast after World War II? We inflated a lot of it away, and that's what I'm concerned about here, inflating things away. Yes.
The other thing I'm wondering about is financial literacy and also the easy credit of credit cards, because I know that where you can buy groceries on a credit card. And then figure out, and a lot of the finances seem very abstract. And they don't check their risk nothing. I don't see it as permanent or stay balance there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different places to go to see.
Yeah. No, I can't believe, it's very easy to get a credit card these days. I remember when I got my first credit back in the 70s, it was like the Inquisition, you know. You really were able to get a card. Yes.
Okay, well, I was 15 years old, started working, and paying into Social Security, did that for 50 years or whatever. I don't see how the Medicare, Social Security,
Well, I'll send you a copy of the report. But it is in fact, I think, a rather dire situation. I did when I retired, I got this list of every year how much I contributed to Social Security, and I looked at how much money I was getting back from it, and I assumed I was living to be age 85, and I calculated the internal rate of return, it turned out to be 4.5% per year. Now, you go out there and find an investment that gives you 4.5% real after inflation, you're doing pretty damn well.
So, well, let's talk about Social Security. They fixed it in 1983, I think.
Yes.
And they said, when they fixed it, it lasted for 50 years.
Well, they didn't miss it by much, 40 years.
Well, let's run out 2033, so it's 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
So they know what they need to do to fix that, I think. Continue to raise age, because it wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the age pop out $176,000, they'll pay you after that.
You can fix a lot, you can fix a lot easily.
How much of a difference would that make to our deficit if they did that? Would it matter or not?
Not a whole lot.
What about, so back in the late nineties, we had a balanced budget for, I think, 3 years?
It was 99, yeah. It's ranging there,
Yeah.
Clinton years.
Right, so what do we do to get that?
I think we were doing better with our budget back in those days because some people were smart enough to see the dot-com bubble happening and sold their stocks. So I think that was part of it, but I don't know. I don't know how much. Yes.
Are you aware of historically how long societies have sustained themselves with income disparity like we have now?
Not aware of that. No, but, like I said, there's a lot of reason to be concerned about the future. There's reason to be hopeful. AI, I think, is very much overhyped, and I hope that they're talking about $500 billion that the hyperscalers such as Amazon, Google, Netflix, not Netflix, but yeah, are all talking about spending on AI infrastructure. I sure hope there's a rate of return on how much we're spending. I'm spending a little bit, got $20 a month on Gemini, and I gotta tell you, it's like having this really smart friend, And for example, I didn't to find out black unemployment and youth unemployment, I didn't dig through 20 documents on the BLS website. I just asked Gemini and it spit it right out. So it's great having this really smart friend. I'll pay $20 a month for that. And then they come out and they say, well, they gave me the first month free, and the second month they charged me, and then they reversed that charge, but they kept still giving me so I'm not going to say anything. So I figured that out. But what? Is it the truth? So it's 1 o'clock now. So